this morning's G8 session, you made an interesting comment at the start of the debate, referring to clients that you've been working with in Asia recently. You mentioned China and I believe Singapore as well as locations where clients have been focusing their strategies purely around control rather than cost, which seems to be very different to the majority of drivers that we're hearing here in Australia at the moment. Can you expand a little bit for us on whether you think that's a regional specific issue or whether or not you think that potentially is happening here as well and why?
I think it has implications regionally. In Asia Pacific per se, so Singapore, Hong Kong, China, you find that a lot of C-suite level executives are very worried about control and risk management, particularly in finance and other mission critical functions. So because of that, they've taken a view that cost is not all about labor arbitrage saving, but could be fraud prevention or unplanned event happening in the organization, theft, fraud, etc. So that's why they've looked at shared services as a way to increase risk management, to reduce the need for example, the CFO to fly around the region on a weekly basis, which itself is a risk, to make sure everything is in one location, transactions and decision making. And I'm finding that a lot of C-suite members are actually taking that as a cost saving in itself in the long-term life cycle of a business. I'm never sure that shared services is all about cost saving from a labor arbitrage anyway. Okay, if you move 1,000 jobs from the US to India, you will save money. But how often does that happen? Less and less today. And I'm finding that more of the centers we've been working on have had a strong focus around cost, control and risk management.
And another point that was raised was about various verticals and their influence this morning. People talked about Australia having its financial services sector, it's a couple of travel industry companies, it's a couple of telcos. The financial services vertical as a whole, it has been said in Asia has been a major driver for shared services.
Yes.
BPO. Is that still the case, or has there been a shift to other verticals in your experience here in Australia and also in Asia as well?
I don't know if there's been a shift. I think that a lot of financial services companies have decided to look at how best to get more from what they've already got. So even in the current crisis, you'll see financial services companies are looking at how do we get more to lower cost countries, where there is a labor and a scale advantage to give benefit to the business. I don't think you'll see any less of activity, but I think you'll see a focus on other industries at the end of the day. I think that what you might find is that financial services may spend less on outsourcing with third parties and try and drive more from third-party vendors from current contracts, or ask the vendor to move work to an even cheaper location. I think you'll find there'll be some of that. I'm not sure there'll be any tail off given the current economic climate. I think it's worth noting as well that shared service and outsourcing are not short-term propositions. They are long-term. And if you take the point of view that the current downturn's not here forever, then I don't see too many organizations making that many drastic changes as a knee-jerk to reaction to what's happening at the moment.
Just lastly, there was obviously a great public sector debate that took place this morning within the G8. I know that you have some experiences of shared services within the Singaporean government, which offer an interesting light on that discussion that we see here for the government debate. I wonder if you could expand a bit on that for us.
Yeah, I think we did talk a little bit in the panel this morning around the level of success of shared services in Australia. I've found that it's not just in Singapore, I've seen it in the US as well in certain departments, but where there's heavy end user education that starts significantly ahead of time. And at the end of the day, it's not shared services for the sake of shared services, but it's for example, driving a self-service mindset in end users. So where you see that, heavy education seems to have played a role in getting people to adopt, driving early adopters, having pilot projects that have shown success, and involving the end user in designing that pilot so that they get a look and feel of what the shared service is all about rather than being distant from it. So I found that a heavy focus on end user education has been a contributing factor.